all of my amazing GovCon winners. I'm so excited today because we have not only Dr. Karwanna D, who I greatly admire and have been following way before I started my channel, but also she is not only the founder and president of She's Got Goals LLC, she has real government contracts. She is phenomenal. She is light. And that's what's so key in this place is that you have to have light as you go on this journey of government contracting, or for one of her newest ventures, and that is about creating wealth. If you want wealth in your life, you need a light, because if not, you're going to be broke. So I want to introduce everyone to Dr. Karwanna D. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor, of course, to be here. And I appreciate the time that you've taken to reach out to me to be a part of your platform.
I'm so grateful. And I know everyone watching is so excited. And I would love for you just to talk a little bit about how did you get started in this space? Because I believe like you were kind of in like the music business or entertainment business.
You took it way back. That's super funny. It's crazy that you say that, because like I've always been the type of person, if there was something that I wanted to do, I would create a lane for myself to make sure that I get it done. And so when I was growing up, I wanted to be a singer. But then after going to college and stuff, I'm like, I wanted to get into entertainment media, and I wanted to manage artists. And so when I graduated from college, the first thing that I did was I created a television show locally, and it was like to interview and to manage artists, whether they were rappers or singers and all those different things. And then I started like cruising on this celebrity cruise, and I became like the media interviewer of celebrities, and then basically started attracting A-list artists and celebrities into my life. And so I would interview them. So it's just like, it was just one of those pathways that I just kind of like, I feel like I created a lane for it and I did it. But I wasn't making no money doing that. I made a little bit, but I didn't really make no money with it. I did it out of heart. And so that's the thing, is like a lot of the things that I started off doing, I did it out of heart, and I didn't understand how to monetize it. So yeah, I did entertainment media. Yeah. I mean, I interviewed like all these people that I used to watch on television, and just like, oh my God, I can't wait to meet them. And that was great. Right. But when I started in business, I started a business to actually make money. Right. Initially, I had no clue how to make that business make money. So I made a little bit of money. I probably made like $20,000 to $30,000 a year working full time in my business, which was to me no money. But I was able to do that because I had a 2-income household. And so I was able to just kind of do that and play around until I learned how to do business the right way. So how did I find out about government contracts? Well, I met a billionaire that I was going to church with. It was an African-American billionaire, come from the same like urban blighted community that I came from. And I was freelancing for him. He was one of the clients that helped me to, make the little bit of money that I was making. And I asked him, like, I just got sick and tired of trying to figure out how to grow a business, and everything that I had learned in business school was wrong. It didn't work for me. I would go to the bank and ask for a startup capital. They wouldn't give it to me. I would go to like all of these vendor shows and all these score meetings and all this stuff, and it just did not work for me. I needed to make some money. And so I asked him, how did you become a billionaire? But like, I just got real, like, dude, like, how did you do it? He was just like, well, the same stuff that you're doing for me. And I was freelancing, doing video production for him and photography services. And he was like, you can actually do for the government. I'm like, that doesn't even make no sense to me, But then I found after my research that the government absolutely has money for entrepreneurs and small business entrepreneurs. And the fact that I was a woman, and a Black woman at that, opened up even more opportunities for me to really grow a thriving business.
Wow. I can only imagine how powerful that was, because often we think like, well, if the government wants that, wouldn't they just have somebody else do it who works for the government? Or why would they choose us?
Yes. So, and all of those questions came through my mind too. Just like, it just didn't make sense. Right. And so what I learned was like through the Small Business Act that the government, of course, has to spend a certain percentage with entrepreneurs and small businesses. But what I found as an answer to that is they cannot source their own products and services. They have to outsource it, and they have to outsource it with people who actually can provide that. And so that to me was like, oh, that's the door. That's the door in. So if they can't buy their own pens and pencils, if I have the skill set to go find pens and pencils, then guess what? I can be the person to give it to them in exchange for a large contract. So it was a no-brainer for me, you know. Being that the government, the local agencies, especially here where I was, like, they needed video production, they needed photography, they needed marketing, they needed websites, and I knew they couldn't do it internally. So I used my skill set and my gift to be able to provide that as a service to them, and they paid me to do it.
Which is phenomenal, because sometimes we get pigeonholed thinking like, oh, well, don't they want ammunition or tanks or IT? And it's like, they want everything, including video production. Like, what was the first video production effort or contract you ever worked on for the government?
Oh my God. So there was a multi-trillion-dollar project in the city of San Francisco, and it was through the transportation department. So they were building basically like the Grand Central of San Francisco, and they needed to utilize women in business and local businesses as well. And I just happened to have gone through the process of like getting those certifications. And so for me, that was my ticket in to be able to get a piece of that multi-trillion-dollar pie, right? It would have been great if I could have landed multiple trillions, but it was a scope, right? So I actually carved out a particular scope on a project like that. And so some of the things that I was able to do on that particular project, which was a multi-six-figure project for me, was to videotape other success stories of small businesses being utilized on that particular project. So it's just like, you really have to be creative and think outside the box. And so that's what I was able to do. And it led to me landing that particular contract.
That is just phenomenal. And then where did you go from there? Were you like, oh, I got the bug, now I'm just going to keep bidding? Or
yeah. So from there, I actually was just like, okay, so I kind of figured it out. I figured this thing out a little bit, right? And so I basically went back and looked at, well, what did I do to get that particular contract? And I did it again. Then I started landing contracts on top of contracts. I call it contract stacking. and then I was landing them simultaneously. And before I knew it, those contracts were getting larger and larger, of course, because, you know, you get to make the price. I didn't understand the value of what I had to offer, and I didn't understand my pricing structure or any of that stuff, but I did it anyway until I learned and figured it out. And so, so that's what happened. Like, I just actually rinsed and repeat what I did. And then it led to larger opportunities and better opportunities. And then I said, oh my God, like, just imagine if more people knew about this. You know, they don't teach this in the schools. They don't teach this in business school. When you go down to open up your business license, they don't tell you about this stuff. I'm like, I need to just be the voice to spread and let people know this is what's going on, you know? So eventually I evolved into also becoming a consultant and teaching other people how to do this stuff.
And I'm so glad that you have done that, because the thing is about government contracting, there's definitely a strategy. But like with other things in life, like I think about basketball, I'm pretty sure LeBron doesn't have or never had more than one coach. Yeah. You don't just have one coach. You have to have multiple coaches, multiple mentors, multiple experts as you grow and evolve as an entrepreneur. And so it's great that you're here and you're in this space, because as you said, most people, they don't know about it. Even when we step out as entrepreneurs, they still want to keep us broke.
Yeah, that's so true. It is crazy though, because like you say, you have to have a coach for everything. Like, before I understood how to really create wealth and how to really create abundance and to grow a thriving business, I absolutely did not understand the importance of investing in coaches. I did not. In fact, I was the type of person, in my mindset was like, if I can figure out how to do this on my own, I'll do it on my own, just because I thought I was saving money. And I thought, right? But what happened was I was actually losing money, because it took me forever to figure it out. Most of the things I never figured out, and it cost me money. It's the opportunity cost. It was costing me the money that I'm making now. I could have been making a long time ago had I invested in a coach. And so now I literally have a coach for everything. I have a coach for coaching. I have a coach for business, for accounting. I have a coach for everything. So I have a coach to tell me how to speak, you know, to be a great speaker. You have to invest in yourself. One thing that I learned is, like, when you invest in yourself, it opens up opportunities for you to receive what's called a return on your investment. But that return on your investment multiplies by hundreds of thousands and more than what you invested in the first place. So it actually doesn't save you money to save money and not invest. It actually costs you money, but it actually makes you money when you spend money. And then that's when I started getting coaches for, well, I need a spiritual coach. I need to know these things that are happening in the spiritual realm, that just does not make sense, right? All the things that we learned in the natural, when you get into the spiritual realm of attracting abundance, you learn that those natural things just does not work, especially when you're trying to become wealthy and you're trying to break out of break generational curses and all that stuff. Like, you need to understand how things really work. And so what I learned is you have to spend money to make money. This is something that we've heard, right? We've heard this stuff growing up. You got to spend money to make money. It didn't make any sense, especially when you come from a broken mindset, you don't really understand that. But once you start testing those standards and those principles and you see that it actually works, it's crazy. It's like spending is the way to receiving. Giving is the way to receiving, right? And it talks about that in the Bible. It talks about giving and seeding and then reaping harvest. It talks about those things. And so those are the things, of course, that I've learned. And in order for me to grow to where I am today, it took for other coaches to help me open my mind and just kind of pull back the chains that had me bound.
And I love that you share that. There's so many gems there. I love just the spending money and on coaches, and also understanding you got to spend to receive. And this spiritual realm, for a whole nother segment. I could go on and on about that, but it's so true, because the spiritual element, our health, our business, wealth, family, all of it are tied together. They're not just these little pieces and parts floating around in different zip codes and area codes. They're all connected. And so I love that you shared that, because the one thing is, especially as an entrepreneur, being in that place of just confidence and being able to charge what you're worth is vital. Because if not, then it's a going out of business strategy.
Absolutely. It's crazy that you talk about charging what you're worth. You have to know who you are, and you have to be confident in that, right? A lot of times when people start a business, I would say 100% of the people don't really understand their worth. Right? Because you're spending time chasing customers, you're spending time undercutting and bargaining your services and all those different things, when there are premium buyers out there who will pay you top dollars for your services. And until you understand how to get in front of those premium buyers, it's going to be really hard for you, right? Really, when you create a business without that information, you create a job for yourself, in which I had a job when I first started my business. How could you work 60 to 70 hour work weeks and be bringing home $30,000? That was a backwards job called slavery. I slaved myself, and gave myself a small stipend, along the way. That's what that is. But what I also learned is that you are who you attract. I used to be a cheap person. And so it wasn't until I started spending premium dollars where I was able to actually not only be able to feel comfortable charging premium prices, but I feel like if you do it, then you have the right to ask for it, right? So you cannot be a cheap person who want a bargain shop and then ask someone for a premium price. It's out of alignment, and your energy is going to be off when you ask for that. Like, you're going to be uncomfortable asking for something like that. So you have to be who you want to attract. That's very key in life and business and relationships, all those different areas. You have to be who you want to attract.
Oh my gosh. I hope everyone from all of this, just these nuggets so far, totally really taken what you said, because the premium buyer is out there. The federal government, we were paid almost $80,000 for a 40-hour class.
You know what I'm saying?
Why not? The federal government, there are labor categories where they'll spend $500 an hour. Yeah. Or a private sector client, they have no problem spending millions of dollars on some type of product or service. I just think about, I was at the nail shop earlier today, and I look over and there's a woman with a Birkin bag. Those are anywhere from $20,000, $30,000 to $250,000, depending on the size and the type. So if an individual buyer, if a government organization, if a for-profit organization, or even a nonprofit organization have no problem spending and paying for high value and premium value, then You can ask for it so long as they understand the piece you said. You can't have that trying to save a penny, penny wise, pound foolish mindset.
Yeah.
And then you get mad because you're not getting paid what you're worth, but then you try and cut corners. It's not going to work. So how do people get out of that?
So we both know Myron Golden, and he always talks about in his trainings, like his mindset trainings, is that people can never behave consistently in a way that's inconsistent with who they are. So it's just like where you are today is a result of what you've been doing over the past 5 years. And what you've been doing is a result of who you are and how you self-identify. So you have to change your identity. He talks about the be, do, have, right? The becoming, or the be, which is the identity. You have to change your identity if you want to get some different results, right? So if you're like in the mindset of cheap and bargain shop and whatever else, try going to do something and pay somebody top dollar, right? Give them a nice big tip, or, try doing something different. You have to get into the habit and create new habits of doing something different. And it takes work, of course. Change isn't always a great feeling. Change requires shifting, and sometimes it requires cutting back, right? So before a tree can grow, sometimes you have to cut back and trim back some of the leaves and stuff like that, right? So spiritually, when we're growing and shifting, we have to cut back some of our old habits and replace those things with new habits, and get into the habit of like doing something daily action to do something different. And over time, it'll change. So that's how you create a new habit, to just basically taking an account of everything that you've been doing, and don't do that no more. Do something different. Or you could also find a coach who can show you, this is how I got there, and find out everything they do. What do you do when you get up in the morning? How early do you get up? Do you drink? Do you drink coffee? Do you meditate? Do you read the Bible? Do you read a lot of books? You need to know what their habits are, daily habits, and then adapt some of those things, and then create your own new daily habits in order to change.
Yes. And a coach just speeds things up. I was in a place for a long time where I didn't want to pay a lot. I was really super thrifty. And it's amazing to see the difference after paying for not just coaches, because I would pay for coaches, but these were like very inexpensive coaches going along with who I was. But after paying premium value, it's made a huge difference, and it speeds things up. And it's ultimately led to a greater abundance.
Of course. I remember the very first time that I invested in a coach, it was Danielle Leslie, who taught me how to, you're probably familiar with her.
I love Danielle Leslie.
She taught me how to be a coach and create, like, my offer and all these things. And I invested in her program. That was the first investment that I had ever made at that level. And it really wasn't much now that I think about it. But to me, it was a lot. Because it was thousands of dollars, right? And so that little bitty I think it was like $2,000 or $3,000 at the time, made me more than that in it as a return, like hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars in return, because I made that investment. So had I not, I would probably still be making $20,000 to $30,000 a year, struggling, right? The greatest investment, which showed me that I've really grown as a person, that I've made. So my coach, Myron Golden, so he has like a VIP day. It's $200,000 for a day. People would think you're insane, but I understood who I was going to learn from. $200,000 in a day showed me how to make $1 million in a day. So it's like, you cannot be afraid. There's a scripture that talks about investing and being planted by the rivers of living water and stuff like that. And it also talks about reaping the harvest and being fruitful and multiplying and all those different, and not being afraid. You cannot be afraid. You have to stand boldly on what you believe. And then when you do that, there's no way that you can't win. So you cannot be afraid of losing, right? Why are you afraid to lose money? Are you not going to do the work? People who are fearful usually are fearful investing, are usually fearful because of who they are. They're not fearful because of who you are as a coach. They're fearful because they are afraid that they have not made the commitment to actually do the work. If you don't do the work, you won't get the result. But if you do the work, there's no way that you can't. get the result.
And that's so powerful because you got to put in the work. You got to put in that work. We all may mesh with a different coach, or we may have a coach for various seasons in our lives. But if you don't put in the work, then you're not going to get anything. It's almost like wasted talent is how I see it. We all have amazing gifts and abilities. So now it's a matter of, what do you want to do? Do you just want to sit there and talk about, oh, what I shoulda, coulda, woulda? Or do you want to try? Because as long as you're putting that energy into motion, it's going to come about. It's going to happen, but you got to try. So how do you get them moving toward that? Because clearly, I mean, you're such a light, and you're doing that in and of yourself and in your life. How do you get them moving towards creating this wealth, doing more for themselves, seeing that they can have this life of abundance?
Sometimes you got to take people back. When we were children, and I remember when I was a kid, and I remember teaching little kids, they used to have this story time on the carpet, right? So you would sit in circles, and then sometimes during those story times, they would ask you, well, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? And so kids are so innocent. They have not yet been told no a million times. They have not yet got discouraged by naysayers and people. So they're so innocent, and they would raise their hand and say, well, I want to be Spider-Man, or I want to be Superman, or I want to be a lawyer, and I want to be this, and I want to be that, right? Or I want to be a singer, right? The sky's the limit. It's not until you start listening to naysayers that your dreams become deferred and you start doubting who you are. And sometimes you have to reignite a person's childhood innocence and their dreams and show them, this is what you said you want to accomplish. And unfortunately, because of life, and life does happen, it's become a dream deferred. But don't you know, it's your calling, it's your duty. There are people who are waiting on you. If you never do this, they will never be freed from whatever situation and circumstance. So sometimes you have to reignite a person's inner child to show them what's possible. And then you have to help them to dream and to visualize the possibilities, right? So if you can show people the pathway to getting to where they want, which is like goal setting. It's like, that's it. It's like, it's easy. I can show you the pathway to getting to where you want. It's called creating goals, and it's called creating action steps to accomplish those goals. Of course, a goal without action steps is really just a dream. So we're going to wake you up today, right? We're going to put some actionable steps in place to help you get there. And here's how it's going to work. And so those types of things, for a person who's ready, it will reignite the fire that lies within them. It's already in them, right? But for people who are, not everybody is ready. Some people are just going to be who they are, and it's going to stay where they are, and they're never going to stretch, and they're always going to blame other people for the reason why they are where they are. But for the people, the very few who are ready, they will show up, and they will actually be ready to be coachable.
And for those who are ready, what's like one thing that they can do?
I would say the one thing that you can do is take action. That's it. It's really that simple. So the one thing that you can do is take action. And the one thing that you can have to help you take action is faith, right? The Bible talks about how faith without works, taking action. Faith without works is dead. And so the one thing you can do is have faith. And all it takes is a little bit of faith, because it's the faith that actually fuels you into action. And when you take action, you actually get results.
Gosh, and that's true. There's no one out there who's successful and said, I didn't do anything.
Right.
I just became successful. I mean, even somebody who wins the lotto, they still had to play or scratch off the ticket. There was still some kind of energy that was put toward winning. For those who are not ready, maybe they're like, I don't really know. I don't know about taking this action. They want wealth. What's one thing they can do?
I would say, like, if they want it, they have to just make the commitment to go after it. Sometimes you have to just kind of take a step back and just start reading. Listening to positive thinking, motivational audio clips or something like that. Because like I have a part of my ritual in the morning. I call it the 5-5-5. So I'll do 5 minutes of motivation, 5 minutes of meditation, and then 5 minutes of affirmation. It just kind of helps you to like elevate the energy, to elevate your mind, elevate your energy, and just kind of put you in a whole different realm where you can be more highly effective. And so I do that every morning. And so sometimes you have to take a step back and just get into a different realm. Got to turn off the TV. Stop listening to all the stuff, the garbage that's going in, and start fueling yourself with food and brain power that's going to help you be more confident. And so reading is, they say reading is fundamental, but you have to be reading the right stuff, you know, not Jerome Dickey, which I used to love. And what's the pimp dude name?
I know exactly. I can see the cover.
I read that stuff in high school. That was garbage, right? That was a waste of brain energy, space. What can you do with that information? Absolutely nothing. But you start reading stuff like Rhonda Byrne, you know, The Secret. Well, what is that about? Stuff like Jack Canfield and Zig Ziglar. Like read these types of books and find yourself. You got to find yourself in that. So I say reading is one of the most significant things that you can do when you're reading the right stuff.
Oh, and I love that. And and it's so easy now. I was going through Russell Brunson's, one of his books, and there's a woman who reads a chapter from it on YouTube. And I love it because she reads it and she kind of dissects it. You have Audible, you have so many options. And so it's super easy. I think even local libraries have like books on audio that are free. Like there's no reason if you live in the United States that you cannot get access to a book. And there's always a library. So I love it. People never talk about them, but I do love a library. How can people get in contact with you? Best way for them to get in contact with you.
So what I do is I help entrepreneurs. So I work with entrepreneurs and I teach them how to scale their business, creating wealth, right, with government contracts. And of course, similar to some of the things that you're out there doing. And I think is great that coaches, similar backgrounds are coming together and having discussions of how we can serve more people. For me, if people are interested in learning how to even get started in this, whether you're already making 6 figures, you want to grow that 7 to 8 figures or more, or whether maybe you're just getting started and you haven't quite hit 6 figures, you want to know why. Because there's a reason, right? There's a way to start a business profitably, and there's a reason why a business is not profitable. These are the things that I teach people how to identify where the pitfalls in their business during the pre-qualification process. And if you go to govconchallenge.com, you can actually get registered for my 5-day challenge where we kind of walk you through. Even if you don't get into government contracting, right, it's your decision. But even that will show you some of the mental blocks that are in the way and some of the other things about business that we were taught wrong, so that you can actually start building a business the right way, with the right foundation, with the right information, and understand really how to up your value. So even if you decide that you want to do business just with individual clients, you want to continue the customer chase and do it that way, at least you'll have some real knowledge that you can do it different. But even if you don't, here's how you can optimize and maximize and even monetize your business.
Yes, and please go to the site. Please do that. And also, Dr. Karwanna has a YouTube channel. Check out her content. She's amazing. She has a ton of resources. The challenge is phenomenal. I know of people who have gone through the challenge. This is something you definitely need to take advantage of, because whether or not you're wanting to be a government contractor, or even if you are a government contractor, this is something to explore, because you can never have too much information. You can never have too much information. I promise you, Lockheed Martin isn't thinking, wow, we bring in billions, we don't need to learn anymore. No, right. They're constantly learning, they're constantly tweaking, and they have a lot of help. And the same goes for all of you here. There's no reason you can't be profitable. There's no reason you can't make 6, 7, 8 figures if you want to. So sign up for her challenge. And what is the website one more time?
So it's GovCon Challenge, GOVCON challenge.com.
Yes, please go there. I'm so thankful to you. I love this. I'm like fired up. I'm so motivated. I can't thank you enough for being here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me, and continue doing the great work that you're also doing as well.
Oh, thank you.